Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Redneck Light. Today we're going to be installing a fan controller on the electric fans in my truck. Right now they're wired really badly. There's no relay, there's just a big fat wire going to the cab with a switch. It's not very safe, and it's kind of inconvenient to have to remember to turn it on and turn it off while I'm driving around. So we're going to install a controller that will just turn them on and off automatically and safely with a relay. So let's get started. Okay, so in another video I just installed this new battery. I'm going to unhook the negative cable so I don't electrocute myself at any point. But basically I need to come in here and figure out what kind of horrible wiring was going on in here. I snipped most of the old connections that were just wired directly to the battery, and we're going to start fresh with the kit I got off of Amazon and rewire everything. As far as I can tell, we've got two wires coming out of each of the two electric fans over here. There's a sticker on one of them that says 12 volts, 80 watts. They both go in here. They're all taped up. I'm going to untape them here in a minute. And eventually they come up here to a couple black wires, because there's black and blue on each one of these fans, and then they turn into 4 black wires. So I'm sure once I undo this there's going to be some splices and other things, but basically we're going to get rid of all that. We're not going to reuse anything except the actual wires coming off of these fans. Alright, so this is what I got from Amazon. We've got our dual electric fan controller. They make single fan versions and other stuff too, but comes with all the wiring, the little spade adapters, fuses, the little sensor for your coolant temperature, 2 relays, 1 for each fan, and a helpful wiring diagram so that way you can wire it correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the wiring that's currently in the truck and figure out what I need to do. Alright, that took a little while because it was encased in a whole lot of electrical tape, but there are the 2 leads to the 2 electric fans. I don't know if you can see that, but right there we can tell now what kind of amperage these fans are supposed to pull. That says 80 watts. So divided by 12 volts. I'll do the math later in editing, but it shouldn't be a big problem with the wiring I have. But now I'm going to work on splicing together these 2 leads here. I'll probably cut off the old connectors because they're a little scorched, probably from not being wired correctly. Okay, so I have this wired in a very basic sense. I haven't got everything tied together. Obviously I need to tape it up and make sure it's not in the way of belts or anything. Alright, so first we have our fan. We've got the negative wired to this black wire, and all I did was take the black wires and ground it directly to the block. The other wire, the positive wire, is set up on the brown, or in the wiring guide that I have, the coffee colored cable, and it's the same on both fans down here, and the coffee cable goes to the relay. Next, the black wires coming from the relay I have hooked up to the starter solenoid. So this terminal right here is hot when the key is in the run position, which means that when the key is in the run position, the car's running or even it just started, it will allow the fans to be powered. Next, we've got the red cables. I have those set up on this extra lead that came with my battery cable. If you don't have an extra lead, you can put an end on here that you can hook up to the little bolt on your battery terminal. But mine has an extra lead, so I was able to utilize that for this purpose. And then the final thing that I need to wire is the sending unit for the temperature. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the right tool to pull one of these plugs out. I thought about doing this, but since this is on the other side of the thermostat, I'm going to go ahead and put it down here. This would be before the thermostat. Can't test it quite yet, but we have everything hooked up. I've just got them zip tied to the side right now. I'll probably try to screw them in or something. The other thing is you want to make sure you put the fuse in the little fuse holder on the red wire. Okay, so the alternate way to wire this is you can actually put these on a switch. You put a switch between the If you put a switch between the gray wires and a ground source, between these wires and a ground source, you can have it wired both to a temperature sensor as well as a switch. But if you just want to test this without having to wait for the truck to warm up, if you've just got on temperature, you can take your gray wires and touch them to ground and your fan should click on. Like so. Okay, it's been a few weeks since I got stopped by the hex head plugs there. I found a set on Amazon for pretty cheap, so yet another tool that I just need for one job that will probably sit in a shelf forever, but hey, that's how you collect tools over time. So I think we're going to use that plug right there for our sensor. It's right before the thermostat, so this will probably heat up before it starts circulating through the radiator, which should be a good indicator for when the fan should turn on. So do be careful. In my case, there's quite a bit of coolant that dribbled out of here, which I expected, so make sure you have something underneath to catch it. In this set, it comes in two parts. There's the part that screws into the block, and then there's the part that screws into the little fitting. And I'm going to cover these with some Teflon tape so these don't leak. It's very common for plumbing. If you go to Home Depot, usually a lot of stuff actually comes with a free little roll of it if you ever do any kind of plumbing. But alright, we're in the block now. See, we've got the first fitting, the sensor itself, and then it's got a little spade terminal, and we connect those to the gray wires, which is what switches the fans on and off. So now we've got a big old mess of wires. We're going to clean these up a little bit, make sure that they're out of the way, zip tied to the side, they won't move around. And also I got to do some of the wiring over here. I think instead of terminating both of the ground wires to the block there, since the wires are kind of precariously crossing over to the engine, I may ground them to the frame somewhere. I saw there's a few ground screws on the other side, so I'll come back and show you everything I did. Alright, we have everything in. I elected to just zip tie the cables neatly instead of doing wire loom or the electrical tape, but everything's nice and neat out of the way, so that's a big thing. You want to make sure you clear the belts and things. I moved the grounds down to a little hole I drilled in the frame there, so everything's looking good. Okay, so I've got the car on. It's cold outside, but I'm getting it up to temp to see if the cans will kick on. In fact, I think I hear them now. I don't know if you can hear that, but the fans did indeed kick on. Right as it passed the middle of that normal range on the radiator. I want you to see. So the way I have this hooked up and run, you can hear the fans kick on with the key on run. So since the coolant temperature is still high, it's still going to be running with that key, but once you turn it off, no more fan. Alright, so that turned out pretty good. I got my fan wired up. Now it turns on and off without me having to think about it, based off of the temperature of the coolant. So I'll leave a link in the description to everything I used. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.